Hello, my fellow attorneys. My name is David Schnurman, and today we're going to be talking about your attitude. That's right, your attitude. Your attitude equals your altitude. And the reason we want to talk about this, and to be serious, is when I look to sort of myself and what I've been doing. So I run Lawline. We're the largest provider of online education, and hopefully you're a student of ours. What I've realized is my journey over the past 7 to 10 years since I've started this company, and really my whole life, has been a journey of self-improvement. It's been what I call the quest for success. And attitude equals altitude is a quote that my father says every single morning, and it's how he reflects on recognizing the more positive you are and the more optimistic you are, the better success you'll be, the higher your success will be. And what I've done over the past 10 years or so, and I've read countless books, I've worked with coaches, I became on the board of entrepreneurs organizations, I've interviewed entrepreneurs, I've started my own online TV show to do that, and I've put together some tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you today. So let's get started. So first thing to note is there is no final destination. We're all like sort of in this mode where we're waiting for success and sort of we're on that journey. The journey is the destination. There is no destination to get to. So it allows you to be more present. There is nowhere you're going to be and say, okay, at some point I'll get there and then I'll be okay. Because as soon as you think that is and you get there, you got to move on to the next thing. So you got to make sure throughout the journey itself you are being present to who you are and what you're trying to do, and this is the happiness. This is the point where you should say, okay, this is where I want to be. One thing that early on was the success principles I read, and the first principle was take 100% responsibility for your life. And the reason that's important is too often we make excuses. We complain about our job, we can complain about where we live, we can complain about how successful we are, how much money we had, and certainly, yes, there are external factors that prevent you from doing certain things. But what separates that person who is up here in success and has done so much, and you're down here? What separates those two people? Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. So how do you use that? How does that 24 hours differ for some person? It's their internal things. They've taken responsibility for who they are and what they want to achieve, and they go and do it. You need to do the same thing with yourself, with your law practice, with your life, with your career, and we want to help you do that. The law of attraction, I've read many books that talk about it. One book specifically was the success principles. And in the success principles, what they say is if you want to achieve something, if you want to be something, you actually in your mind have to believe that you've already achieved it. And when you do that, when you believe you have the best show online that tells lawyers how to better themselves, when you believe that, and everybody watches it, and a million attorneys are watching it, and it's a must get to show. The world will move people, places, and things to make that happen. And it sounds a little hokey pokey, but sometimes you got to believe in something bigger. And it's sort of the phrase, the harder I work, the luckier I get. That's what it is. And a great example in the book is in the Success Principles. It talks about if you win the lottery, you don't get that money for 4 months, but the day you win the lottery, you're a different person. You feel confident, you feel happier, you feel energized, because you know in 4 months you're getting that $100 million, and that's going to change your life. You know that's going to happen. The same way you know you're going to get that money in 4 months, with what you want and who you want to be and what you want to do with yourself and your practice and your family and your life, you have to believe it, you've done it, and then you make it happen. I'm sorry for getting so revved up, but this stuff gets me going. Regular journaling is a mental exercise. We exercise our muscles, we exercise on a daily basis because why? You want to be fit. When you exercise your muscles, you tear it down and build it up stronger. When you journal, you separate the 10,000 thoughts that you have a day and you put them on paper and you reflect on what you did yesterday, what you're doing today, how you think and how you feel, and all of a sudden ideas and thoughts come into your mind and you put them down and you sort of organize that. Over time, you will see patterns emerge, but most importantly, every single day when you do that, you will exercise your mind and you will get smarter. The neurons will connect, I guarantee it. I recommend Penzu, Penzu. It's a free software where you can do it, or just go to the traditional journal. So, principles of thought management. I work with great coaches. One of my coaches, Kim Addis, from Frame of Mind Coaching. She taught me that, and I've seen it in every book that I read now. In life, you can't control lots of things. You can't control the weather. You can't control politics. You can't control your spouse. You can't control your employee. You can't control your boss. The two things that you can control is how you think and how you feel. The only two things you can control is how you think and how you feel. And that's very empowering because we always think the challenges are in the external world. And yes, of course, their challenges are there, from inspiring your team, from competition, from payroll, to building your company, to an office space. Yes, they're all there, but what separates you, what allows you to be successful, is how you think and how you feel. It frames your mind, and it frames you to where you want to go. So always remember, the only two things you can control is how you think and how you feel. You can't control anything or anything out there. It's your perception of the world. There's the proverbial bucket that we all have, and either it's an empty bucket, and you have a dipper. You either fill it or empty it. And when you fill somebody's bucket, when you give them positive feedback, you give them positive emotions that fill their bucket, that make them happier, make them more productive, especially, and the most important thing, when you're filling their bucket, you're actually filling your bucket. There's a great book on this called Fill Your Bucket. It's a quick book, and you realize how important it is. We all need our bucket filled on a regular basis, and especially if you're giving somebody constructive criticism or negative feedback, you want to fill their bucket as well to let them know, so they leave that meeting feeling that their bucket's full and not emptied. And it's a really important concept, very simple and straightforward, but again, relating back to you, when you fill somebody's bucket, yours gets filled at the same time. A situation is not necessarily bad unless we label it bad, right? So you have thousands of thoughts in your mind every moment, and things happen, and you can't try to control it. So you just got to try to frame it. And so when the proverbial story, this guy in the 1800s, he had a horse. The horse escaped. The neighbor came to him and said, "I'm so sorry about that." He goes, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" The horse came back with the wild horse. The neighbor said, "You're so lucky." He says, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" His son rides the wild horse, breaks his arm. The neighbor says, "I'm so sorry, that's terrible." He goes, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" And of course, there's a war, and the son can't go to war. And the neighbor says, "Wow, you're so lucky that your son doesn't go to war." And he goes, "Good thing, bad thing, who knows?" And the purpose is, obviously, He didn't label any of those situations as bad because he didn't label them. They were just something that happened. They were good, they were bad, who knows? And that's how we should think about sort of things that seem challenging and seem like they're bad, actually, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And it's really an important concept to keep positive and keep your attitude moving forward. 21 Days of Complaint Free. There's a book that's 6 million of these bracelets are out there. It's called The Complaint Free World. Tim Ferriss wrote an article about it, got me inspired. You want to go 21 days straight without complaining. And every time you complain, you got to switch your wrists to the other side and start the clock over. And the reason you can't just say, "I don't want to complain anymore," is it's a habit that takes lots of focus and energy to make happen. And you don't realize how much you complain until you try to stop doing that. That's gossiping, that's complaining about the weather, it's complaining about other people, it's complaining about yourself. And when you stop doing that, when you hold back, you actually feel yourself changing and being more positive in your mind frame going there. This is really a great activity, and it's worth a try. And it's called The Complaint Free World, and you can get the bracelets on there. And if you can go 21 days straight, by the way, I'm 3 months into it, I'm on day 1. It's very, very challenging. They say it generally takes 6 to 8 months if you get that far to actually make it happen. You will change who you are. A great example of this is a guy had a baseball, in a paint store. Every time someone would come in, they would dip. It was hanging, and they would dip it in a thing of paint. And every time would do a coat. Each coat is very thin. After 22,000 coats, how much do you think that weighed? 3,500 pounds. Think about 3,500 pounds of complaints on you. Marathon training is something that I've done several times. What's so great about it, it's all about your mental toughness. Your mental toughness, your mental toughness, your mental toughness. I recommend whether it's marathons, 5K, triathlon, some sort of athletic training where you follow a plan, you know the goal, and all you have to focus on is your mental toughness to get you there. And when you do that, you feel different, you feel better, you feel you feel like you've accomplished something, you've committed to something, and you make it happen. Definitely one of the things that I really feel has changed me as a person by focusing on running the marathon and doing it over and over and being successful at it. I recommend doing that. You will feel better about yourself and you'll be more happy. I joke, we have twins who when they were 3, we read this book called 3 Days of Pane Training. Everything I learned about management I could have learned in that book. It's a simple thing. Instead of following your kids around for 3 days when they're not wearing diapers and saying, do you have to pee, do you have to pee, do you have to pee? You say, tell me when you have to pee. And you give the ownership and control to them. And if you think about that, life is that simple. If you can change the way you talk sometimes, and you can also give ownership and control to others instead of micromanaging situations, the right people in the right circumstances will excel. And that's what we all are looking for, is that ownership to do something and to control the situation that we're in. Creating a vision, no doubt, is hard. One tip to doing that is instead of looking forward to what you want to achieve in 5 years, you look backwards as if it's 5 years later and what you have achieved. When you do that, you don't have the negative thoughts that are holding you back. Well, why this can't be done? I can't grow my practice. I can't build a house. But you talk about, I built that house. I did grow my practice. Here's how I got the clients. Here's a case that I did. And it's a really easy way to sort of see how and where you'll get to. Core values. Having a firm or a company, or as an individual, we all have some sort of internal core values which drives us. And I read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. He also read a Harvard Business Review where he talked about core values. And he says it doesn't matter what your core values are, as long as you repeat them over and over again and just keep pushing those core values to everybody. And so he says if you were going to go to Mars and create your company there, who would it be in your company, in your organization, that would embody those core values that you would take them with you? And that's what they call the Mars Group. And then I want to leave you on 5 themes of success that I got from hundreds of interviews I did when I started something called True NYC. I wanted to interview and learn from entrepreneurs on the front lines instead of just reading books. And after these interviews, I came up with 5 themes of success. And I want to impart them onto you. Number 1, and the most important, was you have to be a doer. You have to do. Too often we keep talking and talking, we don't make the things happen. So I try to do as much as possible, and that's why I'm here talking to you today. Number 2, you can't be afraid to make mistakes. It's going to happen. We're going to push the envelope. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. We're all afraid, but you just can't be. You got to keep going through that. Number 3, you can't listen to the negativity of naysayers. It's our job as successful people to have naysayers tell us why it's not going to work, why you can't open your own practice, why you can't switch firms, why you can't do one thing or another, buy a house, build a house. Generally, it's the people who love us the most who are naysayers. They don't want to see us get hurt. It is our job to be confident, like the law of attraction, to know we've accomplished it and to make it happen. Number 4, you have to network. You got to do it online, you got to do it in person, you got to do it regularly. We are a community. We are not an island. We need to learn and work with others and to learn from others and to meet them. And number 5, you have to do for others without wanting anything in return. It's the number 1 core value sort of our society. You got to help. You got to give back and really just want to give back. So that is my tips on the how your attitude equals your altitude. All these things will help you have a more positive attitude. It is a work in progress. None of us is perfect. We can't do all these all the time, but we can do some of these some of the time. And if we can reflect on that and watch this video and get fired up about what we need to do to have a positive attitude and be more successful, I think we'll all be happier in our life, in our practice. And thank you very much. I'm David Schnurman. You're watching Lawline.